Hey guys, Prowl 1701 here, and today we're continuing my series where I take a look at upcoming seasons in the Doctor Who, the collection range, and I discuss how I would do the artwork if I was in charge of it and had the talent to do it. And today we're going to be looking at the legendary season 13, Tom Baker's second full season as the Doctor, or second season as the Doctor. And this is a good one. I love season 13. Just so many iconic stories in it. No bad stories in it. I mean, even the weakest story of it, in my opinion, the android invasion, is a great story. Not just a good story, a great story. And several masterpieces in it. This one is really hard to settle on a color, but I know it needs to be a serious color. This is a darker season. This is, of course, the gothic horror season. So it needs a very edgy color, a dark color, a haunting gothic color, something to really get across the seriousness of the season. Several different things I look at is like something on the color spectrum of like bronze, amber, gold, orange, reddish. Somewhere in there, I could see the bronze coming through, or an ambery bronze, an ambery gold, or like a burnt orange or a reddish color, a reddish orange or red, or a multitude of those colors on that spectrum. This is definitely not one I would use like a green or a blue or a magenta color like I like for some seasons. Would definitely not be appropriate for season 13. You really need to get across that this is, I don't know if serious is the right word, but it's just, the type of season this is, those soft colors don't work for it. You need a more edgier, harder color. So a combination of that bronze, amber, gold, reddish, orangish color coming through. For the background, you could use the tunnel effect from Pyramids of Mars when they're traveling through the sarcophagus. That little background spectrum when they're going through the sarcophagus would work. I also think that at some point you could use the time tunnel from the intro. Now we already have part of the time tunnel for season 12 after the diamond logo comes on the screen. But you could also use, for one of the box sets, the intro when it's more circular at the beginning of the opening titles. Also the version of it that's used during the closing titles for most of Tom Baker's seasons, that more rounder one, that would work. Again, with the silver of the time vortex kind of matching the gray of the box, you could actually use that and have, season 12 be this one, season 13 be the other one. Those would go together really well. If you don't want to use the Egyptian sarcophagus effect, I think either of those would work really well. I think Tom should definitely have a serious face on his hands. That makes sense, doesn't it? He should have a serious look on his face. He should definitely have a very serious look. Again, I think this is a more serious season. It definitely has its comedic moments in it, of course. But it's definitely not like a Williams era look. He needs to have more like he does in season 12 and 14. He needs something like that on. I would have him probably in his Pyramids outfit. I do like the pyramid outfit a lot. I'm trying to remember, I think he's wearing the dark brown coat in that one, and I like that outfit. I'm not quite sure what he could be holding in his hands. I have a hard time a lot of times remembering the little things that the Doctor holds in a season. He could be holding the little device he uses in Pyramids, but when he's complimenting Professor Scarman's brother on his invention, and the professor asks what he's holding in his hand. Oh, kind of the same thing you have here, just on a smaller scale. He could be holding that from Pyramids of Mars if you wanted to go like that. I have a really hard time with 13. I guess technically he could be holding one of the crinoid pods in his hand, but I don't know if you're going for like pyramids mostly on the cover, that wouldn't really make sense. But you don't have to just have one story on the cover like they do sometimes. He could be holding, it could incorporate different aspects of different stories. Or he could be holding the little thing that Sarah tosses him that he warns her, the slightest sneeze could set it off. He could be holding that. So I haven't quite made up my mind on what he should be holding. And I also haven't quite made up my mind whether he should have his hat on, because he's wearing the hat in season 12, so I haven't quite decided if he should be wearing the hat in 13. If they go with Pyramids from Mars, it would make more sense for him to have the hat. But since he has it on the 12 box set, I'm fine if he doesn't have the hat. For enemies, you definitely got to have a Zygon on there. Since this is the only time the Zygons show up in Classic Who, you got to have a Zygon on there. You know, a nice big picture of him. You know, that's a very famous episode, like so many are from this season, but I think he should be kind of large on it. I think you should have, for Planet of Evil, because I don't think the one creature that looks kind of like the id from Forbidden Planet would translate well. I think you have the professor that's basically the Jekyll and Hyde character of it when he's in his Hyde form and he's transformed. Because there's some great photographs of him when he's, you know, you should definitely have that on the cover with him just kind of doing that. You got to have Sutek. I mean, you got to have Sutek. Preferably facing like this, because most of the time we see him, he's in this kind of 3/4 profile this way. So you need him on, like, say you're looking at the box set looking out this way, probably also as a big picture because it's such an iconic villain. But I also think you put Professor Scarman on there because Professor Scarman is so creepy looking. Like the way they do his makeup as a character to make the actor look and the performance he gives with it, he just looks creepy when you see him. You can tell that, you know, it's pretty much a walking cadaver at that point. I think you have both of them on it. You have Sutek and Professor Scarman on there. I think they both earn that. I think for Android Invasion, you have the robots with the little loaded fingers. You know, that finger might be loaded. And I think you have maybe more than one. They can be kind of the bottom thing, kind of smaller, with them, 3 of them standing there with their fingers pointing. Because I think that's terrifying, because you don't see their faces. You just see them standing there with their fingers pointing. I think that's intimidating, and I like that. You could also have the creatures from that one, the Craft or whatever they're called, the Croft, I forget what they're called. Their creature design doesn't impress me much, but you could have them on the cover as well. You got to have Morbius. You got to have Morbius. And he needs to be facing this way. You not only need Morbius, he's got to have the claw hand. You need the claw hand up, because I like the claw hand. So you have him, because a lot of times when we see Morbius, he's kind of cheating this way. So you have Sutek cheating this way, which is a theatrical term for turning head. It's kind of when you, in acting, if you're talking to someone beside you, instead of turning your head completely sideways, you only turn it 3/4. It's known as cheating. So you have Sutek kind of doing that 3/4 view this way, and Morbius doing that kind of 3/4 view this way with his claw hand up. And I also think, I mean, you could also have the Doctor or the Doctor's henchman from Brain of Morbius on there too. But, and of course, from the Crinoid, I think you have the humanoid-looking Crinoid from the first 2 episodes, because I find that scarier than the fully grown Crinoid later. And there's that very iconic shot, you've probably seen it, the photograph of the Crinoid when he's kind of raising up like this. It's nice and intimidating. And that's the one I think I'd put at the topmost, kind of where Kronos is on the season 9 one, how Kronos is kind of the top villain, showing him dead center where he's not facing either direction, he's looking at the camera dead on. I think that's the one I'd put right there at the top. Either the Zygon or the Crinoid raising up like that. I would really like that shot. And you could put Chase on there. It would be all right if they don't, but I think you need Scorby on there. I love Scorby. John, I think the actor's name was John, does such a good job playing Scorby. You love to hate Scorby. You just love to hate him. He's that one you're just waiting the whole story for him to get his comeuppance. But John is doing such a great job playing the part. You know what motivates Scorby. You know, he's a very selfish person. He's in it for the money. He's looking out for number one. And he'll work with you if he thinks working with you is to his advantage. But as soon as he thinks it isn't, he's gone. That's it. And it's what actually ends up being his undoing. But it's such a good performance. I'd be cool with him being on the cover. I think for the back, I can't really think of a lot for the back because I don't really remember a lot of season 13 where it actually shows the TARDIS going in space. Most of it seems to take place, you know, on places. I think you could have just the alternate 1980, which would also work for the flat, honestly. I think you could do, on the back, you could do the alternate 1980 or the flap. The flap would be really good, having the TARDIS there with Sarah opening the door and peeking out, in the background being that alternate desolate 1980 from Pyramids of Mars. That would be a great flap cover. I also think Planet of Evil would also be a great cover with the Doctor and Sarah standing right outside the TARDIS, or just showing the TARDIS with that beautiful jungle set from Planet of Evil, because that jungle set is just, it's such a great set design. I've talked about it before on this channel, how much I love the set design. Planet of Evil always gets points for that jungle set. It's probably one of the reasons I will always rank it over Android Invasion. Plus, I just like the story better. But that jungle set's so impressive. So to have that kind of brought to life by Lee Binding on the flap cover would also be good. I'd be great with either of those. I haven't really thought of anything else on the back, because I don't really think there's a lot going on in space that actually makes sense for it to be on the back. The booklet, Seeds of Doom, I think I would do like in the snow, like maybe the Doctor holding a crinoid pod and the little pickaxe he used to dig it out, and the other one with Sarah, and maybe the professor guy, one scientist that survives the longest at least there with him. And I'd like to just see Lee Binding doing the white blue snow, which would kind of contrast with the front of the box art, which would be the more reddish color and stuff. Having the snow there for the cover would be good. I don't think I wrote down how many discs this one would be. Season 7, I figured you could do it in 7 or 8 discs. I think I would try to go for 8 just because season 13. Season 13 is such an important season. I mean, it's held in such high esteem. It is part of the Hinchcliffe era. It is generally one of the most well-regarded seasons in Doctor Who, especially in Classic Who. I think you should go for 8 discs. I mean, whether or not any stories from this season would get updated effects, I don't know, because they have kind of gotten in the habit where they're not doing every season updated effects now. The last 2 box sets have not had them, but that could just be due to the amount they had to spend on restoration work for both sets, 2 and 9. Season 13, though, I don't think any story necessarily needs them. I think they all work fine. Zygons doesn't really need them. Planet of Evil doesn't really need them. Although I have seen some YouTube effects online that some people have done and made it look better. So if Planet of Evil got updated effects, I'd be fine with that. But it's not like one of those where I'm like, this needs updated effects, like I am with, say, Resurrection of the Daleks or Invasion of the Dinosaurs, which are just badly in need of them. Pyramids of Mars does not need them. It's fine. Android Invasion doesn't need them. It's fine. Morbius doesn't need them. It's fine. And Seeds of Doom doesn't need them. Really, the only story that I would even be like, yeah, do some updated effects for that would probably be Planet of Evil. So I don't really think you have to do updated effects. I say that because that basically means each story only really needs 1 disc. Now, my understanding is that there may be an omnibus version of Pyramids of Mars. Because I can't remember if they did an omnibus version of Pyramids of Mars or there was a planned version of Pyramids of Mars, an omnibus version of it that just never actually got made. Like they were going to do it and they didn't do it. I don't remember. Apparently they either did one or they were going to do one and didn't. I'm not sure, but we may get the edit of that. I don't remember if anything else like Seeds of Doom had an omnibus version. If there's omnibus versions for any things, I could see those stories having a second disc just for the omnibus version of it. But if not, I think each thing only needs 1 disc, and that leaves you enough time to do 1 or 2 bonus discs. So if each story only has 1 disc, that's 6 discs, plus you could do 2 bonus discs with a lot of bonus stuff on it, which I believe we've already had at least 1 box set that already had 2 bonus discs instead of 1. I forget which one it was, but I believe there was one with 2 bonus discs on it, as I recall. So we could just do that. I definitely think you go all out for season 13 because it's such a big part of the fandom. Talking about the disc art on the first one, Terror of the Zygons, it's very tempting to put the Loch Ness Monster or a Zygon on it, but I think since most of the time the first disc in a box set has the Doctor and the companions on it, and this is Harry's last regular companion story. I mean, he does come back in Android Invasion. I think you have the Doctor and Sarah and Harry on it, or just the Doctor and Harry on it, maybe. That's a good way to start off, maybe with those 3. I think for Planet of Evil, you could have the Hyde guy or the creature. Or again, if you have just the Doctor and Harry on the first disc, you could have Sarah on the second disc for that, maybe with another guest character there with her. For the third disc, I'm not quite sure. Maybe Professor Scarman and his brother, or Sutek, or the other guy who gets killed early on who's working for Sutek, trying to be his servant. Or the mummies. You could just put the mummies on there. Oh, I didn't even think about that. You probably have to have the mummies on the front art cover. When I was talking about the villains for the front art cover, gosh, you probably need the mummies on there. Well, you could fill up the front art cover just with Pyramids of Mars, Sutek, Professor Scarman, and a mummy. You probably need a mummy on there too. Oh, man. Man, they really need to load the villains out on that one. They really need to. Pyramids of Mars has so many just front cover quality villains right there in it. But if you don't have the mummies on the front cover, you could put the mummies on the disc. Or if you don't have Professor Scarman on the front cover, you could have Professor Scarman on the disc with maybe Sutek behind him. So that's pretty cool. The next story, Android Invasion. You could also have Harry if he hadn't been on one yet. Harry and Benton, even if you wanted to put Benton on one. You could have the villains, the Craft or whatever they're called. I forget their name. You could even have one of the robots with its face off, like the Sarah robot with its face off. Several different things you could do there for Android Invasion. Morbius, again, you could do the Doctor and Sarah. You could do Solomon with Morbius. You could do the bust of Morbius. Several different choices to go with. You could do Solomon with his henchman with the claw arm. Seeds of Doom. Maybe the Doctor and Scorby? Scorby and the other Dr. Kirby or whatever his name is. Chase and Scorby. I really would like Chase and Scorby. But I could see that one also maybe being the Doctor and Sarah. Just to give them another one. Of course with Tom's picture on the back. And for the bonus disc, if there's only one, of course it would be the TARDIS. If there's two, I'm not quite sure the other one they would use. Probably just something from a story. Maybe the cover of the sarcophagus from Pyramids of Mars on a bonus disc. That would be pretty good if they didn't use that for the season 13 or for the story disc. So yeah, that is kind of how I would do the disc art. I think it should definitely be an 8-disc set since it is one of the important seasons. I'm looking forward to seeing what the art for that one is going to go. I hope it has a nice, edgy, scary, serious Doctor Who look to it. So that's my thoughts on the season 13 box set. I would like to know what you think of these ideas and how you would plan it if you were doing the art for it. So comment down below and let me know. I also, my mind just went blank. I lost my train of thought. If you enjoyed this video, go ahead and click the like button and the subscribe button. That does help me out, and I certainly appreciate it. I am trying to reach 1,000 subscribers in 2023, and we are well on our way towards that. So I certainly appreciate each and every one of you that has subscribed and each and every one of you that does watch the channel. I also have a Patreon if you would like to support me that way. There's a link to that down in the description below. That does help keep the bills paid, and I very much appreciate it. I want to give a shout out to some of my top tier patrons, Stephen Crane, Colin Coney, and Finn Perkins. I do appreciate their support, as I do the support of all of my patrons. I have a P.O. box if there's anything you would like to send me to look at and review, and a link to my Amazon wish list is down there as well. Most importantly, though, thank you for watching.